and welcome to Stampscaping 101. This is a pre-recorded video here. I just have a little bit of time to get something in, but I needed to do some stamping. I've been working on a bunch of other things, including some new designs. And this is just kind of a grouping of preliminary, I don't know, new designs that'll be coming out in 2023. Okay, so I've been wanting to use some of the stamps that I have in my private collection, a bunch of 19th century engravings. I have a collection of them from some other companies. And, every time I use those, people are, always wanting them. And quite often they are not available because they are by companies that are no longer around anymore, unfortunately. So I decided finally, okay, I'm going to release some of these myself, and so I can do some of the types of things that I want to be doing in my videos and my personal scenes and whatnot. Okay, bottom line is it's a grouping of these women here. I'm calling them the Moonlight Dreamers. I don't know. They're real dreamy looking engravings and whatnot. Often women like lounging, reclining, and whatnot. This one right here I really liked. It was like a silhouette of a figure. Her face can't really be seen, but just the look of her figure and the dress. When I see something like that, I envision something like that in the moonlight. Hence, Moonlight Dreamers. These ones right here, you might have seen me use this before, and that was by a company that seemingly is around, but they just, I don't know, they don't have that design. These are all copyright-free illustrations, but I've really had to go in and act as a completely new, like an engraver. Luckily, I've done some engraving, in my past, so I can tell which way some of the line marks are supposed to go, because a lot of the tighter details and whatnot were kind of filled in, using the reproductions that were in these books that these came out of. And I also felt like sometimes I felt like a hairdresser, because a lot of these really tight details and whatnot in their hair just were kind of clogged up with ink marks, because they've probably taken these, high resolution scans of these types of the drapery and everything like that, but they're going off of books that, 19th century books that they came out of. So that played into, what kind of reproductions they got. But these days I'm able to take these types of things and blow them up to whatever, 500% and really clean up some areas. But, okay. So anyways, these are the types of things that I really like. I like a lot of these types of pre-Raphaelite, what else was they're Victorian era kind of paintings, okay, like from the late 1800s and whatnot. And I've always really loved these painters, and I don't know, just the types of imagery they had. It was kind of real dreamy looking imagery, not all, not midnight or something like that. But I don't know, just really fascinating types of things, these lounging types of figures, which you see in oftentimes in, I don't know, that type of era of painting. Just really look at this, I don't know, this luminous kind of surface here with this angel right here. This is Sir Edward Burne-Jones. He was one of my favorites from that period. But I just love the kind of the narrative types of things that are going on in here. But just paired with the kind of technique and whatnot, this is probably the time when a lot of these engravings were being done for publications. These painters were doing the same type of things. So this type of imagery came out of this type of period here. So it's really fun to kind of add these into our types of scenes that we can do. I mean, in the background here's just this landscape and whatnot with these blossoms over here, but you add these figures in here and it gives it a real different type of kind of narrative, I don't know, whatever, feel, subject matter, etc. This one's called the Wheel of Fortune, and this is one of my favorite ones. But look at this figure right here. If she was kind of positioned this way, she'd look like one of these kind of reclining figures like this. But I even have a big print of this piece right here that I was lucky to find way back when, pre-internet, something like that. But that's what I envision, you know, the usage of these figures, you know, being used for in stamped scenes. And now I can do them kind of freely in these videos, being that I have them. He's reclining right here like in a little picnic. Slimline card. Well, look at this. It's just like a background kind of horizon up there. I don't know if you can see it real well, but, you know, kind of in this little bluff right here full of wildflowers and whatnot. But here's an island. I can do something like that. Yeah, I should reproduce this one with the island, seaside cove, and I don't know, maybe I don't know, sedge filler like there to make that little bluff and whatnot. But just really fun stuff, you know. Okay, we're going to do a sped up version of this card making portion of this video. I forgot to hit my record button on the second half of it, apologies, but we do finish up with the formatting of the reflection part of this card, so that should be fun. Alright, so I am creating, I guess the framework, the staging for this figure to be dancing in the moonlight in between this, kind of forested structuring in here. I wasn't thinking about having the seaside cove in this scenario at first, but I thought, you know, this figure kind of dancing on a ledge overlooking the ocean, there's always just so much kind of a romantic, kind of notion when it comes to the ocean, so I added the seaside cove in there. I just used a small portion of it to, you know, kind of, I don't know, to show in the background. Not a lot of it needs to show, so I didn't stamp out a huge portion of it. There's a big, you know, splotchy area there on the right side of that seaside cove, and that's where the dancer is going to go. So I didn't want a bunch of waves in that area because I didn't want to have to stamp her out and then mask her and then stamp that seaside cove in there. So there's all kinds of little tricks like that you can do to avoid, kind of, you know, what I consider the tedium of, you know, rubber stamping techniques, and that's masking. I've never liked doing a lot of masking, so I always design my stamps where you don't have to do a lot of that type of activity, and you can just, you know, kind of do a more free-form style of application of images. I'm adding in a lot of grayscale here because I wanted this card to go fairly quickly. I wasn't thinking about doing a lot of the different techniques that I do end up doing on this card, but I don't know, it's one of those things, one thing always leads to another, and these cards always kind of end up a little bit more complex than initially thought because I like what's going on in them, so I just can't help myself, and I really feel like, I don't know, adding, I don't know, whatever it takes to complete the visual statement that I'm going after. Okay, now in grayscale, I'm kind of developing all my shadows. Here comes the figure. She also needs a shadow as well. So I'm adding down on the lower portion kind of an anchoring shadow. When you put a little anchoring shadow along any type of figures that are within a scene, it anchors them down into the scene. As opposed to having them look like they're floating, you have this visual dialogue between the figures. You know, the figures could be the trees and things like that too within the meadow. And the surface, okay, so shadows. Okay, that was grayscale. I'm adding in a very light shade of blue here, and I just use the re-inker to get a lot of coverage down. And then we're just going to move through kind of incrementally lighter tones, okay, or I should say darker tones, excuse me. So we started off with a very light blue, now I'm moving through medium blue. And one of the things that I want when I start adding all my colors down, I want to retain some of that light and shadow that I've established with the grayscale, black and white colors that I laid down first. Now, for some reason when I was working on this scene, it seemed like, you know, I'd add another layer of color, and it seemed like I don't know, it's like the ink that I had already laid down almost was being removed in some ways. I don't know why that was the case. Maybe it was just because of the amount of that first blue color that I used. Maybe it saturated the page so much. By the way, this is a glossy cardstock that I'm using here. But I'm going through all my blue tone values, and now I'm using my dark value, which is a Prussian blue, and then I'll go back all the way to black again. I don't know, the black kind of, I don't know, it seemed like it was went back into solution and removed, because it wasn't as dark after I went through all my blue tones. It's almost like that ink was lifted off the page, or like I said, went back into solution and just, I don't know, came off with the paper towel or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Adding a little bit of a horizon line with that darker ink like that to create a little bit of a separation between surface and sky. In other words, the water, the ocean, and the sky. Developing my shadows on those trees. I'm doing it on the outsides of the trees, so it looks like it's being interior lit. The moon is kind of in the middle of the scene, so to each side of the opposite sides of the trees, they're getting shade laid down. Okay, that's the tiny rocks, adding a little more texture to the cliff, and I want to create separation between the seaside cove and this, I don't know, whatever, grassy bluff or whatever, so I'm adding some reeds on the back side of that sedge filler stamp, the grassy area. Now I'm adding this reeds large in the foreground there. And then we're going to frame off the top with some of the leaves stamp. And that's what it's called, leaves. Okay. Adding that over the top like that, overhanging, you know, supposed to represent those trees, the foliage from those trees. Now I thought we needed a little bit more structure in that, you know, ocean area, so I'm adding these isles in here, little islands in the background. I thought it really gave it some structure, and it separated water from sky. Okay, now this is where I went way ahead, and I apologize about that. I colored my grass a little bit green. I darkened in some areas, and then I was looking at the scene. I thought that would look kind of cool in a mirror card format, so I'm going to add this pond in the lower section of this folded card. If you haven't seen these mirror or reflection cards, as I call them, you just add whatever scene you're doing on the top, and that lower portion, in this case, is going to be some silver foil that will be really reflective and reflect at a 45-degree angle, roughly abouts, the imagery on the top portion of that folded area. Okay, in that lower section, I'm adding some foreground using the leaves and the reeds. Again, I'm doing this in a stazonning so that it will adhere to this silver foil. Okay, so you need something that's going to stick on silver foil. Dry and adhere, and that's what that mirror card formatting can really do. It adds a lot of drama and a three-dimensional aspect to it. Now, one of the things I was thinking about doing was I have all these little kind of glowing little orbs. Maybe they can be, I don't know, fireflies or something like that. I see them a little bit more of a magical looking element, so I added these white dots in the foreground and the shadow areas. Kind of, you know, just kind of hovering around her as if she's, I don't know, not necessarily conjuring those, but I thought those might look cool if I added some crystals to them so that they really sparkle and reflect the light. And I thought that kind of adds to that magical, I don't know, kind of dreamy, I don't know, kind of visual scenario that I'm going for in this scene. And I don't know, I liked the way they looked. And we'll add that lower section down there. Now I'm adding a little bit of sparkle to these, the reeds and leaves down here with a little bit of this white paint pen. so that they kind of stand out and match the top portion a little bit more. And the acrylic paint pen sticks to the foil with no problem. Okay, and that is it. That lower section's a very simple thing to do, but it adds a lot of drama to a piece. I'm adding in this quote stamp there in white, and I love how reverse words or quotes or something like that in that silver section looks like it's floating now. And there you have it. There's my dancing in the moonlight scene using one of my Moonlight Dreamer figures from Nature Set number 30. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this video, hope you hit the like button, and thanks as always for watching.